All right, so this is our website. Again, when you go to the portal, you can click on the link. It'll launch to the outline. There's four main links here you can see besides the homepage. So the outline has most of the material. Projects, as you can imagine, is where most of the coursework is. There's a syllabus and then links, miscellaneous links. So we're going to go over all of those things today, as well as you'll get to meet your teammates. On the outline, there's a PowerPoint that I've already launched, and I'm going to use that to help control um, our discussions today. So my name is Lynn Grew. You can just call me Lynn. I'm a professor in computer science. Um, I'm again going to go over the website and the Canvas site, tell you a little bit about me, and we're going to have an icebreaker where you're going to get into your groups that you've been assigned to and get to know each other. So my area of expertise is computer vision and machine learning. I am a professor here. I was actually one of the founding faculty at Cal State Monterey Bay. And before that, I worked in industry, primarily at IBM, where I was a vision expert, and they actually sponsored me for my PhD. I got my PhD at Purdue University, which graduates more engineers at that time, at least, and computer scientists than any university in the world. And let's see, I am the faculty advisor for the Google Developer Club, and I run a research lab called iLab, and you can see some of the photos here. Some of the other things I do on here is I am the point of contact and for CASI, and that is Computing Alliance for Hispanic Serving Institutions. We are what's called an HSI, which is Hispanic Serving Institution. And so we have different kinds of programs, but that includes, and I'll just sent out an email about it, that you might be interested. If you're interested in doing research, you can get paid as an undergraduate research experience. You can always come to my office hours and chat about it if you're interested more. And we'd have had a number of students work with faculty, even faculty at other universities. You can do virtual too in some cases. And it can lead to publications. And it's definitely something that you want/need to do if you're interested in pursuing a PhD or even in some cases, master's degrees. They like to see that at universities when you apply. So if you want to talk to me about any of those things, you can. Another program I'm involved with is CalBridge, and you'll see a notice going out this year. And CalBridge is a 2-year program. I forgot how much the students get paid. That's quite high. I think it's something like 12 or 15,000 a year. And it's for your junior and sophomore years. So you apply as, junior and senior years. So you apply as a sophomore. And again, it's to help you, if you hear the word bridge, CalBridge, go into graduate school, ideally PhD. And we've had a number of students. I've advised a few of them. You get a CSU advisor at your campus, like me, that works with you one-on-one, and you get a UC, University of California advisor. And if you go on, and like we have a student who went on to UC Santa Cruz, you get $30,000 a year for the first 3 years. This is what the program was last year, at least. I won't speak until it's announced again for next year. Funding that helps pay for school and things like that to attend PhD program. So it's a really great program. And we've had a handful of students, because it's been around for a handful of years, go through that program. And pretty much every time there's been one are one or two selected from each CSU campus. So depending on how many people apply, you have pretty good odds to get it. So again, that's something you can talk to me about. Other things I have do is I'm part of CRAW and NCWIT, which are women in technology focused things. So I'm interested in helping students, pursue their dreams and go as far as they can. I'm a firm believer that education can change your life. So these are some pictures on the right of some of the research I do. On the top is something called senior collapse detection. It monitors senior citizens at home when they fall down and, will send emergency responses. And the bottom is something called blind bike, and it helps low vision people do biking. I've done seeing eye drone and seeing eye dog. Now I'm working with a couple students again around visual, disabilities and things like sign reading and playing with some of the large language models, so multimodal type things where you have vision, but you're also doing narratives and speech. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. And in terms of the course, we're going to go over the website in a moment, but it's going to cover both theory and application. You're actually going to do some engagement, right? So that's part of social responsibility. Is the first part is engagement in getting involved in one particular project that we have, focuses on that. But in terms of topics, as you'll see on the outline, I publish everything ahead of time for all of the weeks because we're online, but kind of hybrid in the sense that some of it's synchronous, but there's a lot of content that's asynchronous that you'll be going over. And we'll talk about the logistics when we get to the syllabus in a moment and how that works. So if you are traveling and want to get ahead, you can read ahead. However, I may make changes or add some new materials to future weeks, even though I'm publishing it ahead of time. Until we go over a week, I won't notify you of that unless it's a correction for something in the past that we've gone over. So in terms of topics, we'll cover things like privacy, censorship and control, intellectual property, cybercrime. We'll talk a bit about the idea of entrepreneurialism and ethics and how they can be intertwined or should be intertwined. And we have a project that focuses on that. We'll also talk about attacks and more, workplace ethics, and more, okay? As you'll see when we look at the outline. So we're going to go over the syllabus next, which contains all the kind of logistic and information. All assignments work will be posted on our website, and we're going to be doing some things through Canvas too, as you'll see as we go throughout. There are a number of required classes. I call them entire classes to distinguish it from the classes you're meeting with your groups. And we're going to stop here for a moment and I'm going to jump over to our syllabus. There's a link there. And you can find it right here on the home page. Takes you to the syllabus. I'm just going to go ahead and click. Okay. So this is the syllabus. We do have a required book. You can see it here. It should be at the bookstore, but it also could be purchased online. We will have some books that we'll be using mostly through the library. And here are some recommended books. One of the ones that we're going to definitely use in terms of reading is called Lean Impact: How to Innovate for the Radically Greater Good. And while we're on that topic, I'm going to show you right now how to get to that book. So if you go, unfortunately, I can't do a link from it because it involves session IDs when you get on the library page. So it's not possible to keep it as a link. So when you go to the library, you might want to take notes. The first thing that you're going to do is click, this is the way I go, access A through C. Okay. Then you're going to click on O, and the very top one, and it happens to be, is called O'Reilly Online E-Learning eBooks. Okay. So take a moment to write that down, and I'm going to click on that. That will take you here, and you'll have to say what your institution is here, but you see we're not listed. So you just say you're not listed, and you type in your email address and then say go. You don't need an account. Okay, wait, already user, sorry. Okay, sign in. There we go. If you just sign in with your Google email address, I just have a email address from a long time ago. It will take you to this website. This is the O'Reilly website. And then you can search. By the way, you can see there's actually courses here. But if you wanted to find a book, for example, on Python programming, okay, you can hit in here. And then all of these books are available for you to look at. They tend to be not so much what we call academic books, but more industry books. These are books that people would buy, let's say, outside of a course, but they tend to focus on something more intently and less theoretically. Okay. So they're more like books in practice, I would say. So we have this book, and I'm just going to go ahead and be lazy, and I'm going to copy the title, and I'm going to put it in here. Oh, that's interesting. Why am I not finding it? Why is it bringing up fundamental? Oh, let's just start with this lean impact. The colon. Yeah, the colon is throwing it off. Okay, so here we go. Lean impact. If I wanted to go in, I just simply click inside. I hit start. You can come over here, and this particular book is not really organized by chapters like most books are, but you can come in here and you can click on the different parts or wherever you were last reading, hit continue. But I'll just go ahead and jump in here, and then it's like reading a normal book, okay? Online, of course. And there's a table of contents again that you can bring up inside each part. It's broken into chapters, okay? Any questions on that? How to get to this particular book? Because if you have a question, trust me, someone else does. So unfortunately, this link is, as I said, session-based. You have to log in with your credentials, your email address, or Google account in order to get access. So I can't link it here. All right, so there is my email address, phone number, email. I'm not often in my office, so email is 100% or 99% the best way to reach me. There is a link here that I'll let you take a look at on your own, and it just repeats my information, but it talks a little bit about different questions from me and my answers. And one of them was when I was at Google as a faculty in residence, an experience I had where they were had recently walked out because of a machine learning contract, and they had an all hands meeting. And I was a noogler sitting in the front row, and they just had, it was the most unbelievable experience. So I can't say too much about it. You can always come and talk to me one-on-one, but I guess for a recording, I'm not going to go over it because I was a Google employee. Not that I would say anything wrong even in person, but all right. So moving on, this is very important that everyone understands, and it's the class meeting schedule. So there are what I call entire class meetings. And we are section 2 here. I'm teaching 2 sections of this class. So we meet only on 5 days with the entire class. Today, which is the 21st of January, the 23rd, and then we'll take a break and meet again February 27th. And then we meet again at the end of the term, April 29th and May 1st. And each one of these dates has different focus, but for now, I'll just say the first week, which is the 21st and 23rd of January, we're focusing a lot on logistics and getting you started. The last part, the 29th and the 1st, is really about presentations of your last project. And then the middle time that we meet is when we're kind of getting more into detail on any questions or issues you're having with projects, okay? There are then required group meetings, and this is every week on Tuesdays during class time, okay? The only exception is today and April 29th, when we're instead doing our entire group meetings. You are going to have someone in your team create a Zoom link, because you can't all use this Zoom link to meet, in order to meet with your groups, okay? And every week, I'm going to be sending you a notice of what you need to do that week through Canvas, an announcement. They'll come into your email box, and it'll include tips or guidelines of what you should do, suggested items you should do in your meeting with your group. Okay? So there is some guidance there. But as we go through the semester and we start getting more heavily into the project work, there'll be less guidance because you'll know what you'll be working on, right? And every group will be a little different in terms of where they're at working on the project. Another required meeting is a one-on-one meeting. And that's where I ask you sometime after week 3, because I don't want you to come now. It doesn't make sense. I want you to get into the class a little bit. But before March 4th, I want you to come. And I do record points for this. So it is important that you do that. And that's a time just for you and I, and this is during my office hours, to kind of see what issues you might have or any kind of questions that you may have. You're always encouraged to come and see me in office hours as often as you like. And with regards to that, I have office hours on Zoom Tuesday and Thursday from 11:45 to 12:45. It's first come, first serve. Unless there's some great need for you to make a particular timed appointment, I can attempt to accommodate that. But if it's like you need to meet me at noon and I'm in the middle of talking to another group, that may or may not work, right? You may have to wait till whenever the next opening is after that, okay? But I tend to run it mostly, unless you have a need for something, first come, first serve. All right. So the description, I'll let you read that on your own. We've kind of talked about the fact of what we were covering on a high level in the outline. These are the outcomes that I mentioned, so obviously identifying professional, ethical, legal, and security issues and responsibilities, and the impact of computing on individuals, organizations, and society. And here's what I mentioned before, involving collaboration at the end with so teamwork, classmates, but also you have to, this particular course, does help to fulfill a GE. is going to assess and help you practice written and oral communications. So you're going to be creating reports and various things, papers, and you're going to be giving presentations. Okay. And that again is a requirement for both GE and our PLOs. All right. So before class, I randomly created you working groups, which we will go over later today. And you can see who's in your group by going to the Canvas site and going to people and selecting groups. So let's go back to the Canvas site. So if you click on people, I'm going to go, and then there's CS230 groups. Now, when you do that, I'm the instructor, so I see everyone's groups, but you don't. So I can pull out each one. You'll just see, you'll see yours highlighted. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to scroll through. You can see your name. So as you can see, there's been a movement through sections and various things. People were moving sections. So there can be some movement. Here we have a new addition. So I'm going to throw that person into group 3. You can see things will potentially change the first couple weeks of class. So be prepared for that. And that will lead me to talk in a moment about our group policy. Okay, so it says see the projects page for our policy. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. This is the projects page. And by the way, you'll notice that depending on the resolution, so if you're on a phone, for example, or a tablet, the look will become more vertical, right, to help you. So don't be alarmed by that. So this is the policy we have regarding individual and group work. So in terms of, these are the 4 main projects that you see here on top. And you can see that there's something called meetup. There's something called case study. There is something called entrepreneurial strategy. And then there's entrepreneur and ethics. So in terms of what's individual projects, it's the meetup, this one, and the entrepreneurial strategy. In terms of group work, it's the case study and the entrepreneur and ethics. And it will say that also on those project pages, but it's summarized here in items 1 and 2. Now, in terms of the policy, if a group is not working, so what happens like in industry, right? If you have a deadline to produce something, and I've worked at a few companies, and it's due in 1 week, except for like very serious infractions, a manager is not going to split up the team. You're all going to have to get the work done regardless, right? And that's the way we're going to run teamwork here. So I want you to try to come to me 30 days before a due date so I can more easily split the group apart. If you wait to the day before, 2 days before, there's very little that's going to happen. You're going to have to turn in the work and it's going to be shared. Now, the one exception to this is that if there's any conduct infractions as per university regulations, the group will automatically disband. And then the next one tells you what happens if your group disbands, item number 4. So if your group disbands or you lose someone, what's going to happen? You're still responsible. Each subgroup or individual is still responsible for the entire work of the project. So if your group decides to split into, say, you have a group of 4, splits into 4 different individuals, you're each going to turn in the project and all the content. What will most likely happen is any content produced up to there will be shared by all members. Now, that's a case-by-case situation. And that's where, obviously you're going to be meeting with me, the individuals of the group or the group in general, depending on the situation. And I'm going to make the executive decision as to what will happen with the current work. But you highlighted in yellow is that the requirements and deliverables will not change, even if you end up doing this work individually. Okay? And I want to stop and see if there's any questions on that. My hope is no one will split, but I may have in a semester out of, let's say I'm teaching 2 sections, one group that ends up disbanding. Mostly it's because of, in fact, almost entirely, it's because there's a member of the group who is not participating. Oftentimes what will happen is it'll split into, 2 subgroups where there's an individual by themselves and then the rest of the group may stay together. And that individual may not even respond to my emails and they end up not passing the course. Okay, this has been kind of the trend. So I want to warn you that you are required to do work, okay, in your groups. And if you don't and it disbands, this is what it can lead to. Okay, so I want you to treat that very seriously. This is a component of this course. It's not something that's going to change. It is something that is required for me to implement and for you to practice. And as professionals going out afterwards, this is something that you really want and need to have as part of your academic experience. Okay. All right. So going back to the syllabus, I'll let you read the general guidelines, which includes things like academic dishonesty, university regulations, and so on. Grading, okay, this is at the top here, is 70% coursework, which includes those projects. We will have one exam. It will be a final exam. That's 25% assessment. And then 5% class participation, which is taken in a number of different ways, including in a bit, after I'm done with this recording, I'm going to take and do attendance. I will send details about the final later. To do it now doesn't make sense, but it will be done on Canvas. And if you have certain kinds of academic needs and have worked with our Student Disability Resource Center, this is regarding accommodations, then they should communicate with me. That is the way we are obligated as faculty to work with you. And as you know from my research, I am highly interested in helping people with all different kinds of abilities or disabilities, if you like, and have worked in that field within computer science. So I am, interested in helping you, but part of that is to go through the Student Disability Resource Center. With that being said, the final, because it is an extended time, as you'll hear later, it does actually handle any kind of extended time requirement, just as a heads up. All right, so the topics are in the outline. Some of them are listed here again. Email is, and of course, office hours are the best ways to reach me. And then this is a repeat of our teamwork. And then this talks about YouTube video submissions and how that works. I want you to be able to turn in videos that way, as well as MP4s. So Canvas, this talks a little bit about Canvas, and then of course the library and Zoom conferencing and needs, and definitely some other additional information like accessibility services, academic policies, and so on. So definitely look at it. And then finally, a land acknowledgement for the land that the campus is on. Questions on this? Just unmute yourself. I don't see any. Okay.
Quick question on the one-on-one meetings. Is that something that we need to schedule prior, or can we just
You,
come into your office hours?
yes. So you just come into the office hours, anytime between after week 3 and before March 4th. So it's just drop in. You don't need to make an appointment. Like I said, I generally run office hours as first come, first serve, unless there's a specific need to do a schedule. All right. Any other questions? So kind of returning backwards to what we were talking about. So in the course technologies, obviously you're using the web, Zoom, and Canvas. You'll be giving presentations, so being able to use either, Google slide decks, or if you like, PowerPoints, whatever works for you. You'll be doing some video creation. You can use Zoom to record yourself. That's quite easy. And if you don't know how, you can either Google or use your favorite ChatGPT to find out, or come see me in office hours and I will help you. You'll be posting videos on YouTube, as well as turning in MPEGs. The Google Drive is also something I encourage you to use for group work. You'll be using also GitHub, and I also suggest either GitHub Issues or Trello for group management, for your assignments. And we'll talk about those things as we go through the class. So the lecture material, for the most part, is linked off of the course website on the outline, and we'll be going over the outline in a moment. So you must meet with your group every week, right? That is a requirement. In fact, you will be giving progress reports and screenshots of your meetings with dates, which are date stamped. So at least one person has to be on a computer so that as you can see down below in my right-hand corner, can you all see that? Right here. Do you see the date on the bottom? Yes, no? I'll go ahead and try to get back to it. It's not letting me, but right there in the very bottom, I can't annotate because my Zoom controls. Let me see if I can move them. No, it's not. You moved it. Okay, let's try like this. But the very bottom. Do you all see that right there with the date and time? Yes, thumbs up.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Windows timestamp, right?
Yes, I want to see that when you're running the Zoom meeting. Okay, when you're taking screenshots so that I can see it's for this date, that date. So you'll be showing evidence, right? As well as talking about progress. So I know, and I need to see everyone with their real name, not their nickname, on the Zoom call. Okay, so you can change that for the purposes of doing the screenshots that I ask you for your meetings. Unless I say it's group, it's individual work, right? I've talked about the different projects, but we'll go over them. We'll start to go over them in a moment. If you need help, office hours, email, come see me. There is on Canvas a Q&A student discussion that you can utilize. You can talk to your assigned team, right? You can try searching the web for a solution. You can try your favorite AI, ChatGPT, those kinds of things. Developer forums, Stack Overflow, and my email, of course, is listed here again. I am not a system administrator, meaning I don't control Canvas or the email or Google slide. I'm not Google, right? So I can't fix things for you as at an administrative level, but you can certainly come in and ask me questions about things. But do try to solve your problem first on your own by searching, asking fellow people, using AIs, things like that. Okay? All right. And the last couple slide, that's just about me, which I already kind of did, so we'll skip over that. And we're going to go to the class icebreaker in a moment where you're going to get into your groups. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit more about the outline here in the projects, and I am going to start with the outline. So in terms of the outline, you can see it's week by week, and the way it appears is you'll see if there's reading, if it says chapter 1, chapter 2, that's in the required text. Later on, I'll say read chapter whatever of lean impact. Then I'll be specific. Then you're to go over various materials. And the materials can be have slides and complementary videos, and they might be just web pages. So for example, this talks about group collaboration tools, how you find your group. This talks about how you can set up an email for group members, so you can directly, how you can do that in an email through Canvas and then do through Gmail, creating a mail group. This talks about the fact that you're going to be using CSU East Bay Zoom to host your meeting, and that GitHub, which we'll be talking about later, not today, but next class, is one of the tools you'll also be utilizing. This here talks about group work management. There's a video that talks about GitHub I'd like you to go over. And there's links here to GitHub issues, projects, and milestones. Okay, but I want you to view that video, and I'm assigning that today for you to all look at, so that on Thursday when we meet, our next meeting, entire class meeting, you can ask me questions about that. Because you're going to be doing writing, I wanted to set up my requirements for writing here in terms of specifically writing references and citations. So when you look at, let's go to the library for fun. And let's go to ACM or IEEE. These are some of the main search indices for published papers for tech. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just computing ethics AI. I'm going to just type that in and see what kind of papers I get in. A computer science student's attitudes towards, kind of interesting, towards, because it's student attitudes. That's very unusual, very casual, interesting. So let's take a look at the paper. So this is the structure of paper. It doesn't matter that it's 2-column, but what you're going to notice is, do you see all these square numbers here? 5, 6, 7, right? It starts with 1, 2, it goes in order 3, 4. Do you all see that? And can someone do me a favor and unmute yourself and just kind of be my person to talk to? I can pick someone, but it'd be great if you just volunteer. Anyone want to help out? Okay.
No.
Justin, great. Thank you. So have you ever seen this before, Justin?
Nope.
No. Good. That's great. So these are references, and this is using a style called IEEE. IEEE ACM, the reference, the style is the same. So when you want to make a point, like that is saying, okay, even the US, which has lagged behind both the EU and New China on regulation, and then it says 3. So that statement should be somehow supported by reference 3. References appear at the bottom of the paper. Okay, here it is, title references. Here's reference number 3. Investigating the politics and content of US artificial intelligence legislation, business and politics. So this is a paper.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the style of how you write that reference is also part of IEEE style that we're choosing. It's all the authors listed, right? Comma, comma, comma. The last one says, and the last author. And you list it by first name, their initial, their only, and then their last name, followed by in quotes, the title of the paper, okay, where it appears in italics, if there's a volume or number and date following that, okay? So this is called, Justin, IEEE format style. There's very different kinds of, here, let's use ChatGPT, shall we? What are the common citation styles in publication? And because ACM and IEEE and include IEEE and ACM and give examples. All for the same publication. Okay, so let's just see what else shows. So APA, which is, I think, American Psychological Association, psychologists, or something like that. MLA is probably what you used in high school, but Chicago, I'm going to IEEE. So here's an example. Do you see how it's very different? I mean,
Yeah.
it has the same content. Okay, each one is different here, and how you cite it is different. Okay, so here's IEEE. Here's with the 1, right? See that? Okay, and ACM, right, says. So each one is different. We're going to use the IEEE standard. Okay, because I want to choose something. I want you to, this is what you see commonly, IEEE or ACM in publications. Right? And that's why tech publications, that's why we're going to do it. All right. Does that make sense, Justin?
Yeah, it does.
So when I go back to that writing expectation, I gave you an example of using it. Remember how we say in one, a discussion of, or we saw the example of that paper where it said, I'll just go backwards to the paper and, they might have it at the end of the sentence or part of the halfway in the sentence, whatever, 3, right? Here they have it at the end of the sentence to support it. And then like in 6 or 6 documents, right? So the example that I gave you is like in 1, a discussion of, or you could say 1 discusses compute, style, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the idea. How do you learn now? What does it look like for a book versus a paper versus a website? So this is where you can search online. I've given you some examples. We have an online writing lab. You can actually go in and make appointments. I don't know how many there are. I'm not affiliated with that directly, but the campus does provide tutoring for writing. The CSU East Bay also has that you can read on citations, a link. And then this is not CSU East Bay, but Purdue University, where I went, actually has a very famous writing lab that you can find lots of resources. But you can go to your favorite AI, or you can go to, Google and you can say, show me IEEE references, or just type in, references. So, and, you might get different places. Here's the official, all right, because it's on the IEEE website, style guide for, IEEE, and you can go through and read it. But whatever works for you, right, in terms of finding that information, is up to you. Okay.
Yep.
Sometimes with Google, they'll have at the top of the search. They're not doing it here, but sometimes you can do Gemini. It'll do Gemini results. For some reason, they're not, which is surprising. I never understand when Google decides to do Gemini versus Gemini is like ChatGPT, if you don't know. Google's versus just giving you search results. All right. So that's a little bit about the writing expectations. So week 1, the topic is really introduction to class and what is ethics. Week 2 will be about privacy, and you can go on and read each week what it's about. In some cases, I will have a link to a video, right, where you might have a couple different choices, and you can choose. If you have like an account on Amazon, then you can choose to watch that. But I always provide one alternative when I give choices that wouldn't cost you anything. Okay. So you can, again, right? Now, in some cases, I want you to go over everything when it doesn't say choice, right? So there'll be videos, some videos are mine, some videos are videos of leaders in the field, various fields. And then in some cases, there's websites that I'm asking you to take a look at. Okay? So that's the general idea of that. Let's go back to, and I'm just going to check chat. Okay, so Mariana, you just come to office hours if you want to talk about people interested in grad school. But the two I mentioned were, well, in general, there's something called REUs, and which is research experience for undergraduates. You don't have to be you don't have to do it through CASI or CalBridge. But those are particular programs that I'm helping to run here or bring to students, so to speak, that have funding associated with it. But you can talk to me in office hours more about that if you're interested.
I just have a quick question. So for
Yes,
the citation,
yes.
so for the citations, we've seen like one to the numbering for different citations. So what if we want to use the same document twice? Do we just use the same number
You
or do
use the
we?
same number 1. So in fact, let's take a look at it
Okay.
because there was an example here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, these are different. 5, 6, 7, and I think I see, and here they're reusing 6.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't like list it twice, but what you do is every time there's a new one being introduced, it becomes the next number.
Got it. Okay.
So like here's a new one, so it's 8, and then another one 9, right? And then 10 and 11. But you can reuse it. Here I'm reusing 11. And it doesn't have to be in order like that. Like in the very bottom of the paper, I could, in the summary, say, like in paper number 5, we found whatever, the same similar, results kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. And definitely, we're not like immediately starting writing today. So it will be something that you will need to revisit. Okay. It's not going to be just this week. So in terms of the projects, I'm going to talk about one project today, and then we're going to talk about the other 3 projects next class. But the other thing we'll do today is meet in our groups. The project I'm actually going to talk about is not the first one, the second. I'm making some changes to the first one that I'm going to go over, finish tonight. So this is actually a group project. Said it on the beginning page, but right here on the page, this is group work. And this is where you're going to find a real court case that's been tried already. It can't be just an emerging case because I want it to have, an actual resolution because you're going to evaluate the court case, right? And you're going to evaluate it in 2 ways, both by the group's personal ethics and by a professional code of ethics. Remember I mentioned IEEE and ACM? Does anyone know what those stand for? IEEE is the Institute, and this is an older organization of electrical and electronics engineers. It's a very old time, but it includes all of computer science and most of engineering, most of electrical and computer engineering, and some other fields of engineering like materials and so on. And it has publications, conferences, research magazines, has meetings. You can go to local meetings. ACM is the other one, acm.org. It stands for Association for Computing Machinery. Includes all of computer science and computer engineering. It's a little more narrow than IEEE. It doesn't include as many fields as IEEE does. So there's all of ACM content, or I should say areas, fields, is covered in IEEE. But it has more. But these are large international organizations, and you are going to use one of their code of ethics, like the ACM code of ethics, and you are going to learn about that on the outline. You'll see there's a week that we go over that. And this is kind of like your professional ethics, just like doctors have code of ethics. Computer scientists and engineers, tech people have ethics too, and they're represented through these large international nonprofit organizations. And you're going to choose one of those two. In fact, I think I stipulate ACM, and you're going to utilize that code of ethics to evaluate the court case. That's the general idea of it. The way each project you'll see is, let's look at these large purple titles, is there'll be this section where it will talk about general concepts behind the projects. It may have a link to evaluation guidelines that you are using. It'll have a due date. It'll have points, maybe a breakdown. It'll have a goal and other kinds of expectations, like, for example, the writing. Then we go through and we'll have other sections that will have more details on the project. So the first stage is proposing a case. I don't want people to have the same case in this class. It's first come, first serve. So if someone chooses the Facebook Cambridge Analytical data scandal, another group cannot utilize that. So that's what I mean by first post, first get. You will be posting this, talks about in the deliverables, on a shared discussion board. Deliverables are always on the bottom. Where do you propose the case? By February 14th, you post it to a discussion board. This is how you can tell if another group has chosen this case. So before you spend a lot of time on a case, you should post it here. You can always edit your post and change it. And you should look to see, has a group already taken this case? Because that means you can't have it. When you propose it, you're going to have a one paragraph, and you're going to have references of the actual case documented online, and you're going to make a title like this, and then you're going to come in by the 23rd in office hours to talk to me about the case. A lot of that is, I want to make sure it's a real tech case, that it's been actually tried. It's not just like something that's just now entered into the court system. I want to also make sure that you have a link that is of the full court documents, okay? And then the actual report is due March 27th. And the step 2, which that's where we discuss what you're actually doing. You're creating a paper, basically. And how many minimum words, okay, original writing, and PDF format. And I am structuring it for you. It has 5 sections. So in here, we have the case synopsis, and that's a minimum of 400 words. And it's to identify the stakeholders, people involved in the case, organizations, entities, describing the case in detail, giving a timeline, and you need to have references. Okay? Then we have part 2, personal ethics, where you're going to analyze the case with regards to your personal ethics. And then here, very importantly, I say, you can't just say, this is my opinion. You have to have support. This is where you have to give a reference that this viewpoint is supported by the authors when they discuss this. So you're really going into detail as to how you found evidence to support your beliefs. If the different members believe different things in the group, then you say that. And again, each of those opinions have to be supported. Professional ethics is where you're going to, I'm going to change this. I want you to use ACM. And you're going to now evaluate the case, not based on your personal ethics, but based on this code of ethics. And you're going to apply, like item 3.2 of the code of ethics says the following, and this can be applied in the following way. Okay. So you don't have to use exactly the way I'm wording it, but I'm trying to show you the notion of how you apply a code of ethics to a particular case. You're going to compare your personal ethics in part 2 with the professional ethics in part 3. If there's differences, you give reasons why. If they're the same, then I want you instead to give an analysis of what are the more serious issues. Finally, the reference section, and this is kind of a repeat, where I'm asking you to give a particular style. All right, so we're going to stop. What I'd like you to do, besides looking at the video that I asked you to do before with GitHub, I would like you to also look at all the projects. They may not make sense, but next class, we're going to go through in detail to talk about each one of them. And we'll start with any questions that you might have on the case study. So I am going to stop sharing for a moment. And most importantly, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to